Okay, assalamu alaikum. We have very little time today. We're recording this very late, very last minute. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to a new episode of the Habibis. Three game developers drinking good Arab tea. I'm your host for today, Rami Ismail.
And I am Fawzi Mesmer.
And I'm Osama Dorius.
Yalla, let's go. We're very late with this one. I don't know what happened. Life got kind of silly, and we're recording this after the episode should be live.
This is a first for us, or a second? But
I think it's a second.
yeah,
It's a second.
probably. That's good. It's not so
Yeah.
bad. Considering
It's
we
also
recorded
very late, so I'm kind of need to keep it quiet to not disturb the neighbors.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what do you want to talk about this week?
I had a big week, y'all. I had such a big week.
I heard. I want to hear more.
I did airplane stuff. I mean, also I played lots of Destiny. Pick one.
Airplane
stuff.
Airplane.
Airplane. Okay, last
Of
airplane.
course.
Okay, yalla. So so first of all, I got certified for VHF radio telephony, which it basically means that I'm now legally allowed to use a VHF radio, which is the type of radio we use to talk to each other, on airplanes.
Mhm.
So if you hear communication between a tower and somebody on an airplane, that's a VHF radio. To be able to use those, you have to sort of understand how they work, and you have to understand how to talk on them. And that's actually very regulated. There's lots of rules on how you use them. So I had to go sit and pretend to be a flight going from one place to another and prepare that flight, and then I had to do the radio for that. So I had to be Hilversum Radio, Papa Hotel Whiskey Mike Alpha, radio check on frequency 121.030. And you can't say 3, you have to say 3. And you have to start with the call sign, but then if you're already in a conversation, you have to end with your call sign, and there's abbreviations and things, and you need to know all that stuff. So I've been practicing that for 4 weeks, and I did my exam, and I graduated. Actually, I graduated with 0 mistakes in the entire exercise, which
Oh,
was really
congratulations.
wow. I wish
Yeah,
you would
it was
bring that energy to the podcast. Because all we
What?
do is
I
make
know.
mistakes.
No, all you do is make mistakes. I nail it 100%.
As the Habibis, all three of us together,
All right.
we make mistakes. But Mabruk, jokes aside.
Anyway, 0 mistakes. It was actually really nerve-wracking because the guy who does this is part of the Amsterdam Info flight information region, which is sort of the big one in the Netherlands. So this guy manages teams there and handles it, and he was my examinator, so he knows how it should sound. But it was also really impressive because the exam was 4 students at the same time. So we were kind of pretending that there was other traffic on the channel as well. So everybody had their own exercise, and he was just keeping track of where everybody was and what airplane they had and what they were flying and what their situation was and what they had report. I don't know how he did it. It was really impressive. Now, the second part is even more exciting. I did something called a first solo, which is your first flight in an airplane alone without an instructor.
That is
Oh my God, man.
terrifying.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It is the most Hogwarts thing you will ever see in your life. In that you do your first phase of flight training, and then they go, okay, you fly a circle now. If you can, if you're still alive at the end of that, we'll do your second part of education. But it was wonderful. It was really, really cool. They say that everybody I talked to that is in aviation has always told me that it's a moment that you remember forever. And theoretically, I could believe that, but now I understand why. It's such a different feeling being in the airplane and knowing that if you make a really big mistake, it's on you. You're gonna have to fix it, and if you don't fix it, it's you, right?
Yeah.
So I've been
I'm
pretty
getting
nervous for
anxiety
this
just
one.
hearing this.
I know. Tell me
Right?
about it.
No, it's definitely a little nerve wracking. So this happened on Thursday. Normally I don't fly on Thursday, but I had an open block, so I went for it because I wasn't in the Netherlands last week, and I'm not going to be in the Netherlands next week. So I thought I'll get some extra hours on Thursday, and it was really nice. So I flew with two different instructors, and for the first one, we just flew circuits. We just flew circles.
Hmm.
And he was just evaluating how good I was. I'd flown with him on Monday as well. His name is Frank. So I flew with Frank, and on Monday he just said I was very sloppy, which made sense. I had just come off an intercontinental flight. I was slightly jet lagged. I was sharp enough to fly. I'm very strict with myself about that. Um, but it was just sloppy. And he said, like, listen, this is just not this is not good enough, and you know it. And I know it. So I flew with him again, and today on Thursday I was just very sharp. I flew my circuits like on the line. My altitude was good. My speed was good. So when we went back to the flight school, to the building, he just kind of told me, like, you know what, you're going to be flying with this other person, this other trainer who, everybody I fly with, I asked them about their preferences for privacy, because obviously I tweet my flight videos, whether they want them blurred, whether they want to be mentioned, and this next flight instructor did not want to be mentioned. Um, but this next flight instructor basically flew 3 more circuits with me, and then just hopped out of the airplane, like, did a landing, hopped out of the airplane, and said, "Well, I think you're ready. You feeling good?" And I'm like, I guess. And then that was it. Then I was alone in the airplane and doing my pre-flight checks and starting the engine and like doing the taxi and making sure that my oil pressure was right so that I could actually take off and like things like that.
Wow.
And then I flew. The exercise is basically 1 to 3 circuits. And the circuit is basically a little racetrack in the sky. I think I've talked about it on the show before. Um, and normally you do, obviously when you land, you do something called a full stop landing. So you bring the airplane to a full stop. But you can also do a touch and go, where you put the wheels on the ground and then let the airplane roll a bit and then immediately take off again. But our field had a very specific condition that day, which is it was fertilizing day. So the entire field was full of manure. Like literally, I did my solo day on like a shit field. Like it was just full of poop. The
Wait,
entire field was full of poop.
like literally.
Literally, the entire field was just covered in poop.
Okay, at least it softens the landing.
It does, but also it makes it harder to take off because there's more friction.
Makes sense.
So
What an
so we were not
interesting
allowed.
metaphor.
Right, we were not allowed to do touch and goes.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to put the wheels on the ground. So then the next one you can do is called a low pass, where you get the airplane as close to the ground as possible into something called the ground effect. So very close to the ground. You have to imagine that the air that goes over and under the wing, it has all these forces get applied to it. And when you're very close to the ground, the air kind of creates a cushion that the airplane sort of like floats on. So you have to get in the ground effect and then just basically float as close to the ground as possible. Use your speed to not touch the ground and then take off again.
Wow.
So I did low passes, and you're allowed to do up to 3 circuits, but you only get graded on your final landing. And basically, if the airplane is still in one piece and you're still alive, you generally like have completed your solo, right? If it's really, really bad, if you drop the airplane straight down and miraculously it survives, you're not gonna pass it. But if you can get the airplane back on the ground in one piece and you're in one piece, then you're generally good. So yeah, I did 2 go arounds, two low passes, and on the second low pass, the tower called in Hilversum radio, and they just were like, "Well, that was a very low pass." And at the moment, I was kind of defensive because I'm like, I didn't touch the ground, and then afterwards, I realized that was a compliment because they knew I was going solo. You have to call up front, right? Like you have to do the radio communication. So I called them and I'm like, "Hey, I was Hilversum radio, Papa Hotel Charlie Bravo November. One person on board, going for a solo. I guess this is it." And they just went like, "Well, most important thing is to have fun out there."
Wow.
But on the second low pass, they called in and they were like, "That was a very low pass," and I realized later that it was a compliment.
Oh.
And then after landing, I told them I had vacated the runway because there was an airplane behind me, and I just wanted to make sure that they understood that I was clear. Um, and the tower called in again and congratulated me, and they said that it looked really good. And then they also paid for my last landing because you have a landing fee every time you land or low pass or touchdown at an airport. You pay for it in the Netherlands.
Hmm.
So they also paid for my last landing, which was really sweet.
That's incredible. Wow, that's very kind of them.
And then yeah, I got back to the platform, parked the airplane, hopped out. They gave me a tie, and then they cut my tie, which is an old military tradition. It comes from back in the days. Instructors were usually seated behind the student, but also they didn't have headphones to talk to each other. So for the student to pay attention to the instructor, they needed to pull on the back of a shirt, or they needed to pull on like a tie flung over the shoulder of the student. So cutting the tie literally symbolizes that the instructor doesn't need to do that anymore.
That's so
You can
cool.
just fly an airplane now. So yeah, this is the first part of my flight training. This concludes chapter 1. I can fly an airplane.
I'm so proud of you, Habibi. We're one step
That's
closer
amazing,
to
man.
recording a podcast in the air. We're getting
Right.
there.
I'm not at the point where I can fly an airplane without permission yet. So for this next part of my flight training, most of it is just getting hours. I need about 30 more hours, I think, before I can go to my cross country, which is my next big step.
Hmm.
But I can fly solo for those hours. So as long as an instructor is willing to sign off on the flight and thinks the conditions are good, um, I can just go to the airport and fly. And then the other part that happens next is I have to learn navigation. So how to really like navigate precisely in the air. I've done the theory courses, but I'm gonna have to actually practice how it works in the air.
Hmm.
So that's all next. That's what's coming up.
That's until
Incredible, man.
AR
It's so good. I'm
technology
so
improves, and then you don't have to do the navigating because the screen will do everything for you, right?
when I flew in the US, the airplane was brand new and everything had like GPS and was shiny, and you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
It showed you where other airplanes were. It showed you where the mountains were. It showed you everything. I'm flying the Cessna I did my solo in was a 1980s one.
Oh wow,
Like everything on that thing is like steam gauges.
wow! It's
Like
almost
there's
as old
not
as I am.
right. No, it's older than I am. This airplane was flying before I was born.
Wow.
And it's still working. Yeah, those things get maintained really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. It was a beautiful day. I have a full recording of it. I have a full recording of the radio, including like the cute little compliment they made. I have the tie. I'm gonna get it framed. They did lots of photos. They're gonna put them on their socials and on their website where they always put them. So just and they hung the part of the tie that they cut. They hang on the wall in the flight school on this giant wall full of ties.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a wonderful day.
That's
I'm
incredible.
super proud. I did not expect it to go that fast when I started in November to now be at the point where I flew an airplane.
I'm so proud of you. That is such
That's
a big
amazing, man.
milestone. It is.
So do you think that at this pace you'll have like your license by the end of the year?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, now that I can fly solo, I can obviously get way more hours way faster. Because before I was really dependent on whether an instructor had time to fly.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But now, if it looks like a nice day and there's an airplane available, I can call the airport and just go like, "Hey, is there an instructor that's willing to like sign off on me doing a solo?" And I can go, right? I can drive over and be in the air in like 20 minutes.
Amazing, man.
So I need to hit 35 more hours, and in that time, I need to get my navigation done, and then on top of that, I need to get all my theory classes done. Because I've only done one of my theory exams so far.
Hmm.
And then I think there's one other thing. Oh yeah, my English. I need to do an English test.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that one will be
I think
fine.
it'll be okay.
I think I probably, given that I'm formally a public speaker, and that I run an English like language podcast, and that I blog in English,
Mhm.
probably okay. I'm gonna be so embarrassed if I fail that
If
one.
you pass everything else and fail that one.
That's the one I don't get. Yeah.
That's not gonna
So,
happen.
but yeah, then the cross country is the next big test. That's like the real big one. I have to get the theory one, so I'm nervous for each of
It
those.
depends which country. I mean, the Netherlands, you could cross it in like 5 minutes, right?
Well, the biggest thing is that there's requirements to what you need to do. So there's a minimum amount of miles you need to fly, and there's also a minimum amount of airports you need to land at. And you
Oh.
need to do all of it correct. So you need to follow your flight plan, you need to do your radio communication, you need to navigate it properly, you need to manage your flight, you need to get your fuel in order, you have to make sure the airplane is certified and registered and everything is correct. Like it's a real actual flight from start to finish, everything in there. Um, and there's an instructor flying with you for that one.
Okay.
They're not going to do anything. They're just going to see whether you do anything wrong, but they're going to watch every single thing you do.
And the rest of the flight is
So-
from one airport from one side of the country to another.
So for most people, it's like there's a minimum amount of miles you have to fly, and you need to make sure that you land at 2 different aerodromes
I see.
for that. For mine, I'm presumably taking off from Hilversum and then flying to 2 different airports. Most people doing their cross country in the Netherlands actually go abroad for it. So they'll fly into Belgium or they'll fly into Germany. Usually that's their first international flight. Now, me being me, I've already flown in the United States, so I've already done my first international flight. But I've never crossed the border before, so I'm kind of excited to do that. So I will probably do the same and cross country into Belgium or Germany. Not sure which one yet. Which one should I do?
I don't know. I think Germany.
What do you think, Fauzi?
Belgium is close enough.
Oh, so the two of you disagree. Okay, this is not gonna help me make a choice.
Flip a coin.
Khalas. This is the Dark Souls of choices. We're gonna just instantly transition into a game that I think all 3 have played.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
speaking
the
of
game is
anxiety.
King of Fighters, right? Is that the one?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
No,
Uh,
that's not the one.
so I played Elden Ring.
So did
Every
I.
Souls game that I've ever played, I've played for 2 hours and then bounced off of. I did the same with Elden Ring. It feels more interesting in that there's a lot of just going places you can do, and the world design is always great in these games, right? But I still kind of bounced off of the game. I'm playing Destiny. I'm finishing Horizon. I couldn't make the patience for Elden Rings, but I have a feeling one of you will be enjoying the game right now.
I can't stop playing it, to be honest.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, like every time I'm not playing Elden Ring, I'm thinking I just want to stop whatever I'm doing and play some Elden Ring.
Wow.
I mean, you can hang up and play Elden Ring.
It's
We'll
actually
take it
running
from
on.
here. We'll give you a
It's
review.
running on my TV right now, and as soon as I finish,
Wow.
I'm gonna go and play some more Elden Ring.
the Dark Souls of recording podcast.
So I also played a little. My adventure is probably much shorter than yours. Fauzi, should I go first? Wait.
Foz is playing Elden Ring. Go for it.
Okay, he took us up on that.
He just went.
He just went
left.
for it. All right, fine. I'll tell my really short Elden Ring story. So basically, I went up on the Twitters and I'm like, I'm not sure. I do exactly the same thing that you do, Army. I play for a couple of hours and I bounce off, with the exception being the very, very first Demon Souls, where I played about 13 hours and then bounced off. I beat the first boss, and then I got my bum handed to me by the second boss, and I'm like, I've had enough, and I quit. Every other game I played for about 2 hours, including Sekiro. I'm a huge Tenchu fan, so I really, really thought Sekiro would be the exception. Nope, bounced off. Same with Bloodborne. And then I'm back here with Elden Ring. I'm looking at the videos, I'm reading the reviews, and I'm like, I want to be in that world. It seems like something I would actually enjoy, maybe this time. So
Right.
I started, basically I went on Twitter and I'm like, hey, what do y'all think? Is this different? The people who played it, is this different? Should I give that a shot, or is it exactly like the others? Um, and then someone gifted to me. I was very, very grateful.
Oh,
Yeah, someone was like, "Here's Elden Ring, so you can try it."
wow.
So I installed it, which was easy. Unlike other parts of Dark Souls, installing it was easy. Running it on my PC was hard. I got
Hmm.
a lot
Hmm.
of flickering issues and a lot of I had to reinstall my driver a few times. It wasn't like the Dark Souls level of hard, but still not easy. And then I started playing, and in like without going into too many spoilers, the first thing I saw destroyed me. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It's fine. I'll keep going. Then,
Well, I think at that point it's not a spoiler anymore. That thing is like a meme on the internet.
yeah, it's supposed to kill you. And I'm like, at the
Right.
point I played, I already had seen it in action. I was like, maybe I could like hit it twice before it kills me. Nope, it like was almost insta kill. Um,
Hmm.
then I kept playing and I saw this other thing. I'm like, okay, that's the first thing I encounter in the open world. This thing I must be able to fight. Nope, insta killed me.
So it killed you. Yeah.
One hit. I'm like, okay, fine. I guess I should have figured it looks big and imposing. Even though it's the first thing that you see, I should have bypassed it. So I played again. I bypassed it, and I saw these two smaller things. They were about my size. I'm like, these I'm going
Right.
to be able to kill. Nope.
Right. So that killed you. Yep.
Those kills
Yep.
me. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go play Horizon. I'll come back to this one.
Yeah. Let me
Horizon.
let me kill giant dinosaurs with bow and arrow
Yes.
and like feel good about myself instead of getting murdered by a bunny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These were bats. They were two bats.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever they are, like
Yes.
they look like you can handle them, and then they absolutely wreck
They
you.
wrecked me. Yeah. One of them, I think I hit enough times to kill it. The other, I absolutely didn't touch, and it came from behind, and yeah, I was dead.
Yep.
So that's how I. Oh, and later I found out that I missed the tutorial. I'm like, oh, okay, great. The game is designed in a way that I could look for a tutorial and miss it.
Right.
So yeah, that's my story. I still really want to play it. I still see other people, but this feeling has been consistent since the beginning. I have literally tried every single Souls game. I want to get into it. I can't, and I'm really sad about that. But I'm happy for those people who can, like Fozzy, and a little jealous.
Because Fauzi, you have returned, haven't you?
No, I don't see a bar. I don't think Fozzy's returned.
Fauzi has not returned.
No, he went to play Elden Ring.
He just really went. He went.
Oh,
That's amazing.
what was your story? Is it any different than mine?
I mean, same thing. I got absolutely wrecked by the first thing I saw, and then I just kind of ran around and came across a big but smaller thing that also wrecked me, and then I came across a bunch of smaller things that also wrecked me, and then I was good.
Yeah.
Actually, I did the exact same thing, but I switched to Destiny instead of Horizon, and I just shot giant things and went like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I can play video games," and then just you know. I'm gonna go back to Elden Ring, but I'm gonna do it after I finish Horizon. So first Destiny, then Horizon, then Elden Ring.
Okay, that's fair. Fauzi, are you back?
Nope.
No. All right. So do you want to tell us about the Destiny until Fuzzy decides to stop playing Elden Ring? Because I mean, I don't blame him. He's enjoying it. It's fine. We're just making a
Yeah, no,
podcast.
I'm sure he's having a good time. I'm sure he's having a good time, or he's having internet issue. Maybe he is having the heart. He's having
The Dark
he's
Souls
having
of
the
internet.
Dark Souls of podcasts for recording. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the Dark Souls of microphone issues. The Dark Souls of something.
It's
know.
incredible how that is synonymous with an excellent experience to some people and a horrible
Right.
one to others. But what was really shocking is like Dark Souls always made sense to me because it did make sense. I wanted hard when I bought the first one, as I mentioned before. I bought Demon Souls, the Japanese version. I had it imported. I was expecting a difficult game. I used to play difficult games, and my life would support it. And I understood it was niche, and I understood that there was a target audience for it. Elden Ring, with George R. R. Martin writing it, and it being open world, and its aesthetic being significantly lighter than the other ones in terms of approachability, it felt like it was marketed towards a wider appeal, and yet it was
Hmm.
the same level of difficult. But it sold like way better than mainstream
Yep.
games.
Yep.
I heard somewhere that other than Call of Duty and FIFA, it was the best-selling game in the UK since Red Dead 2. That's
I believe it.
2017 or 2018. When was that?
I
2018,
believe
I
it.
think.
Absolutely believe
It's
it.
the
Yeah.
best-selling game in 4 years. That is not, that does not make sense to me. Like,
So
are a
here's
lot of
It's
people?
pretty great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh
Welcome back, Ifozi. I'm not saying it's not great. I honestly want to play the game. There's something about it that's special. I'm not going to deny its greatness. What I what I would have expected is that it's niche as well. That's the shocking part, is that the difficulty is not scaring these people away. Or are they buying it and refunding it? Are they buying and regretting it? Are they buying it and converting at like rates we've never seen before? Is every game going to be Dark Souls difficulty going on? I don't know.
I mean, it's not. Sam, if you think about it, League of Legends is kind of niche, isn't it? It's not an easy or approachable
So
game.
yes and no, because if you play League of Legends, you're going to be able to be matched with other people of your skill level. The game is difficult, but you could play it poorly and eventually play it with enough people who play it poorly that you'll have a good enough time. I know people who used to play League of Legends for a long time in co-op on easy mode. I don't know many people who did this, but I do know at least one person who had a group of friends who they played League of Legends because they enjoyed it in co-op, and I couldn't understand it. That, to me, that was not a good time, but it was a good time for them, and that's all that matters, right?
I understand. Like, what I meant is not necessarily the difficulty of what you're playing against. It's like as a game of what it is. It's not like a game that you can just pick up and understand in 5 to 10
No,
minutes. It's not a
yeah,
platformer, for
it's not
example.
approachable. I
It's
agree, it's
like
not approachable.
it's a very demanding, unapproachable game. Yet it's one of the biggest games in the world, right? So a game being niche or being a bit core does not exclude it from being popular.
hmm
Yeah, you're not
yeah.
wrong, but I mean, there's a like specifically talking about difficulty levels and talking about like flow state, and how the main theory of flow state is that if it's too challenging, you're frustrated and you don't enjoy it, and if it's too easy, it's boring and you don't enjoy it. And I know that theory is not universal, it's just a theory, but that it breaks what we know about games now, is what I'm saying, where we understand that there's a small group of people who want, like, who have a different kind of fun and who want that challenge because that's where they find their flow state. This is throws that out the window. Well, in
Right.
League
I
of
think
Legends, you could find a flow state even with its complexity, just because of like the adjustable difficulty is what I'm saying.
right. I think that one of the interesting things is just also the audience for games has gotten so big that at this point the niche is still a lot of people, and
Yep.
at some point the culture around these games just became like prestigious.
Hmm.
Right. The idea of beating a Dark Souls became a thing.
Hmm.
And I think that drew a lot of people in, and then they just got good enough until they could be part of that club.
Okay.
Right? I think that's what happened. I think it is counterintuitive in many ways, but also it makes sense that people achieving something that's really hard is always going to be interesting, right? Mastery is a player archetype.
Hmm.
Um, and all the people that would normally play a game on hard or extreme or whatever are now just playing one game to show off their skills, right?
Interesting.
I think it's not only skills. Like for me, it's not like I want to show off that I'm better at the game. Is why I play this game. For example, why I'm enjoying Elden Ring is that as I'm approaching it, I'm not approaching it in the same way that I approach a game in which the progress I have is how far along in the game I am,
Mm-hmm.
or my progress today is that how much of the game I have seen. It's kind of to some extent kind of like a fighting game in which like my progress today is how much of this enemy I have figured out,
Mhm.
and how much of my skill has improved in anticipating and dodging and dealing with this enemy. This is why, like, if you go on YouTube, you can find people that are fighting very, very difficult enemies with like not taking no damage, or like somebody beating the entire game start to finish, no damage. There is like it's that kind of level of
Mastery.
like Twitch Twitch gameplay that you would have in other games. Like like this is so good, I should stream it on Twitch. This is almost part of the game loop that you need to be that level of good, or on that way to be that level of good, to be able to progress in that traditional sense in the game. And with that is like Miyazaki also describes that as he issued a statement with Elden Ring saying that he apologizes for people who are struggling with the difficulty of the game, but he says that he wants people to feel the triumph of overcoming a difficult situation, which in Japanese culture is a virtue, by the way. Like when you work hard to achieve something,
Right.
and like when you're getting good enough to like you're really figured out the enemy movement, and now you're dodging and you get all the pieces in the right place and you end up defeating that boss, it's a very, very satisfying feeling. And it's that I don't think is just Elden Ring. Elden Ring does it just as good as they've done it in all their previous other games. But like it's the excellence that they've had in the encounter design in all of their previous games, and then they've taken a page from the Breath of the Wild design book. The combination of those two things is just immense. Like that is a world. It's when I played Breath of the Wild, I had a very wonderful experience because I was playing with a bunch of designers in my team, and we all as it just came out, and we all agreed that we will not look at anything up on the internet. We'll just play, and then next morning when we come to the office, we were sharing our experiences.
Oh, that's cool.
So like we were talking about like, I was going through that canyon and I saw this flying dragon and I hit it with a bow, and now I had a scale from this dragon. And like, what? You have a scale? Or I haven't seen a dragon. And like we're sharing these experiences as we're really exploring
that's my
and discovering what this world is all about.
That's my playground experience growing up as a gamer, going to school. There was no internet.
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible.
Right, but now all of it is on
And
the
with Breath
internet.
of the Wild, I managed to really live that, playground experience. And now, with a select group of friends, I'm also doing that with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And I am having the exact same experience again. So, like, very few game has managed to reignite that feeling that I had as a kid, like Breath of the Wild did.
Right.
And this is the first time since 2017 that I'm feeling this again.
You know what game does that for me as well?
Don't say Destiny.
Is it Destiny?
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely.
but there's so much of Destiny online.
Right, so you just don't look at it. Like Destiny is like Bungie has always been very good at sort of like hiding secrets and like fun little jokes and things and unexpected like combinations of stuff. That's just a thing they're good at. Tomorrow, for example, is the world's first raid race. So they're coming out with a new raid, 6-player endgame content. And every time a new raid releases, there's a race between the sort of like top teams around the world to be the first one to beat the race. And it's super exciting. And the only thing I'm going to catch of it is who won.
I see.
Because I don't want to see the raid. I want to go in blind. I want to be there and look at the place and be overwhelmed by the mystery and have a small group of friends that I'm discovering this with. Early on, and it's one of my favorite experiences in Destiny, and it sounds like the exact same thing Fauzi is describing.
Actually, Rami, when I hear you talk about Destiny, I get that FOMO because I could sense that actually, and and as you describe Destiny is that like as seasons come and go and story arcs come and go, it's really you miss it if you're not part of that kind of experience, and I think that's really cool.
Yep.
And with single player games, I think like Breath of the Wild and now Elden Ring have that ability because like you can read like where can I find something on the internet,
Right.
But the internet can't tell you like, oh, I just came across
Yeah.
this weird giant somewhere, and like, oh, weird giant, I haven't seen that. Where's that? The internet can't tell you what you're not looking for, I guess. Whereas like you can compare notes with friends and get that experience.
Yeah, that's actually why I really like playing pre-release Magic: The Gathering with friends, where it's a new set. You're cracking open new cards. You haven't seen the synergies. You don't know the dynamics of the game. It's a lot of fun. But my experience getting that now that the internet is there is few and far apart. You have to go out of your way to manufacture it,
Mm.
for better or worse. I mean, there are good things about having things accessible and available, because a lot of people don't have a large group of people that they could play with, for example. So
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's forums and there's online substitutes as well that
exactly.
you can potentially like find a group of like-minded people to engage with them in that. And the other thing, like, as there's a lot of conversations around Elden Ring right now, is that a lot of people, they mention the frustration of going into battle and like how this game frustrates them and makes them angry, or like they can't take it, and how it's treating them.
Mhm.
And I believe that there's a part of that, like, you feel frustrated because you think you should be better than this.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And the game is trying to, and the game is trying to tell you that you're not a good player or something like that. Um, my approach to this is that, like, if I'm like going against a Dark Souls or Elden Ring boss for the first time, I'm not going in thinking like, of course I should win. It's kind of like me trying to play against somebody who's played Street Fighter their entire life and go like, of course I'm gonna win,
Mhm.
Um, but like I go in and think that until I learn everything that this enemy has to learn, I can't be pissed at losing because I'm not even good at
Right.
this point.
Right.
So like when I go in to fight a Dark Souls boss or an Elden Ring boss and I lose, I don't feel bad because like yeah, I am bad at knowing
I think
this enemy at this point.
I think this is the problem I have with Elden Ring, because this experience sounds very similar to a raid boss in Destiny, where
Hmm.
you wipe, you die, you wipe, you die, you die, you die. Everybody makes like mistakes. Your team gets together, all of that. That's part of it. But I think at the heart, my problem with Elden Ring and most of the Souls games is that I just don't enjoy playing. I don't enjoy the movement. I don't enjoy the slowness of attacks, like that. I think
Hmm.
that's kind of like just the core experience of playing those games. I don't like. I think I like the idea of getting better and better at something until you finally beat it, right? I played those Kaizo Mario games and all that, but
Hmm.
I think Elden Ring is just the way it moves. I wish somebody would make an Elden Ring that is just like a shooter or something.
Mm. There is one actually. I played one. What was it called? It was a
Was it good?
three-player. Yeah, I lasted longer than with
But
the
was it good?
Souls. And if I
I'm
mean,
not asking
people
if you
who
were
like
better
Dark
at it.
Souls liked it, so
Oh,
I
okay.
fell off of it. As well. What was it called? Remnant of the Ashes, I think, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So
All right.
I played it with friends too, and they actually had the same thought as you did. They're like, "Well, we like the idea of a Dark Souls, but there's a lot that's very hard for us to get over. On top of trying to understand how the game's supposed to work. Well, this is kind of a third person shooter, so we know how to do those already, and it's true. It'll
Right.
get you further. You'll than
Okay.
than learning how a game is supposed to feel, and like on top of everything else with no hand holding. But then you're gonna hit that boss who, like, for us, it was a boss that literally spawned enemies a meter behind us, and so basically you're
Nice.
constantly have to look over your back, constantly.
Right.
There's no other way, and you have to be lucky. Well, the way we saw it, you have to be lucky to have the reflexes to fight them. Like to turn around, get lucky to spot them on the spawn. Otherwise, you're turning in circles and you look like an idiot, and you're gonna like get hurt by the boss itself. It just we didn't understand what you're supposed to do. It wasn't clear, obvious at the beginning, and we died so many times. Even though we came close a few times, it was frustrating, and the frustration was more than the fun, and we stopped. We had beat two or three bosses before there. We got to like the third world, It's not. It
Nice.
wasn't like early on, like in most Souls games, but
Right.
the frustration catches
Yeah.
up with you. For some
Yeah,
people,
okay.
For some people,
Fair.
again, like there are some people
You know-
who love the game.
You know what else caught up with us?
What?
Time.
Oh no!
The time.
What a segue.
Yeah.
What a segue. We need to stop.
What a
We
segue.
need to stop calling out good segues. This is beginning.
But that's what we're known for.
It's part of the identity
Exactly.
of this podcast to call out the good segues.
That's
Mashallah,
Fauzi.
mashallah.
Fauzi needs to sleep.
Yeah, it's late.
I think that's it.
It's all
I
good.
think this.
I'll play a bit of Elden Ring. then
Oh
I'll-
come on! Stop for a while. It's like, oh yeah, Rami, I'm tired. We should make sure we don't go to. How about we go 40 minutes? There. I have to sleep. I might play some Elden Ring.
Well, that's the thing about
Wow.
Fuzzy. This is a humble brag. He's saying he could literally play Elden Ring and sleep.
Yeah, even when I'm half asleep, I can still defeat the Elden Ring bosses. I don't know what you guys are on about.
Anyway,
No.
I'm not done with Elden Ring yet. Like I'm gonna go back to it after I finish Horizon at some point and give it a
Right.
good go. But
I can't believe you. I can't believe I can't convince you to play Destiny.
it's again, it's not that I dislike Destiny in any which way. It's just at this point, I feel like too much time passed. I don't know the story. I don't have an emotional attachment to anything. The shooty bits are fun, but that's about it. It's not bad. It's just I think it's a little late. It would take a huge investment to get into it, if you follow what I mean.
I don't know. Every expansion, they just kind of like reboot what the story for everybody. Like it's still the same story, but they kind of go like, "Here's what you need to know. Everything else you don't need to know. You don't." Anyway, if you two are going to join at any point, somewhere in these next few months would be a good idea because after the first 3 months are over of this new year, it's going to be harder to get into until next year.
I have the new expansion on PlayStation, so I'll give it a shot at some point and see.
I don't know. Come play.
Yeah.
Come play with me.
I'd love that. That'd be great. Just because it's you.
Let's go. Okay, go play. Come play after this. As soon as we hang up, we'll go play some Destiny.
And Fozzy,
Awesome.
Fozzy, I could also play Elden Ring with you, right? And watch you beat the bosses while I'm like slinging spells from a distance.
Standing in the background.
Yeah.
You can come with me and draw aggro, actually. That would be helpful.
I'm really good at that.
This feels like a childhood strategy for some reason, Fauzi. Okay.
I would ask my younger brother to do the same.
Okay, we're gonna kick the ball at the car, and you're just gonna run after the ball. Okay, I'm gonna run the other way. You run after the ball. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So,
Tamam, خلاص.
yes, we could wrap it up. We have some mail, but we could save that for next week.
Yeah, we'll record again. Like what? Literally tomorrow,
2 days.
I think, or like in 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah. So sorry everybody for being a little bit late with this one. We got it done.
Yes,
We just missed Friday, except for Osama's. It's still Friday over
it's
there.
still Friday here. Yeah.
Cool. I'll upload it before it stops being Friday. Do we have a good title? Did you any of you hear a good title for this episode? What's a good title for this episode?
Good question.
Good question.
Is it just going to be good
The
question?
Dark Souls of recording podcasts.
The Dark Souls of coming up with titles last minute.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
good.
All right, the dark,
Very catchy.
Okay.
Rolls off the tongue.
Just very straightforward. Very
We should
straightforward.
change our podcast to that. That's so good.
No. I like the Habibis. Let's stay the Habibis. We're just gonna be the Habibis. Okay, Yalla. That was the Habibis. Next time, next Friday, more episodes. For now, that was it. And salam.
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 That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I was Rami Ismail, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at @THA_Rami. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Fauzi Mesmar, who you can find on Twitter at Fauzi Mesmar. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. The intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubaida, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting service or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening, and salam.